Haji. I'm a researcher at the Centre for Academic Shia Studies based at the خوئی Foundation. My experience of the UK, I was born in the UK to parents who are from East Africa. They migrated to the UK after fleeing persecution and civil war in Tanzania, and they came to the UK with no money, and they came to the UK in 1991. I was born into a family that never had much money, but that had a lifetime of experience. And I was very lucky to have three older brothers who, cared for me and loved me and became my support base. I was lucky to have a very good education, and I then went to university. I was very fortunate because my brothers and my family as a whole, they valued education from a very young age. So I went to university in Birmingham. I did political science. I've always been into writing, and I've always been into journalism, and I've always written my whole life. I always loved writing, from essays to just small pieces to blogs to whatever. So, and I've always had a passion for politics. So I went to university, graduated last year, and then I came across an internship I was offered by CAS. The key thing for me, as I mentioned, is education. I would tell any young person, anyone out there, that take education as your key for success. Learn, absorb everything, and your potential can only be unlocked through education. So I think for me, my key to where I am right now is having a vision and having an idea as to where I want to be in 5, 10, 15 years' time, and have a passion for wanting to do something and try and make it as specific as possible. So people say that I want to be rich. Well, break it down. Say how rich you want to be. The more you can break it down and the more you can visualize it, the more better. So I would say have a vision, have a good education, and just don't lose hope. I would say my greatest success would be helping homeless people in Leicester. After the economic crisis in 2008, there was a huge number of homeless people in Leicester, and I managed to drive a campaign to collect food items and money for homeless people in Leicester, and it was with the memory of Imam Hussein standing up against oppression and injustice that I drove this campaign forward. And alhamdulillah, we managed to raise about £2,000 plus about £1,000 worth of food items, which we gave to the British Red Cross. Luckily, it was put in the media. It was in the Leicester Mercury, I believe, and it was covered by various media outlets. So yes, I think that was my greatest achievement for me. I was very much driven by an earlier campaign, the Who is Hussein campaign, which was I'm sure many people know about. And this campaign really drove me because the idea of raising awareness of someone through good deeds and through good actions is what it means. Is what, for me, that's what Shia means. Shia means taking the personalities of Shiism and highlighting their amazing attributes through day-to-day things, like giving some change to a homeless person, or donating some of your leftover food items to someone who needs it more. That for me is what Shia means. And when I was doing the campaign for this for the homeless people, I remembered the number of times that our imams, would go out in the night and give away food. regardless of who they were, you know, and that's what drove me. So yeah, I would say that first of all, to any youths, you know, living in the UK or in the West, we're very lucky to have a good system of education. We're very lucky to have a stable political environment. We're very lucky to have you know, a strong economy in some ways. I would say maximize the opportunities that you have here that you may not have elsewhere. Take everything with both hands. And like I said before, just have a vision. You know, say to yourself, in 5 years' time, I want to be this. And then ask yourself, how am I going to get there? And for me, that took the form of getting a paper out and literally writing down, you know, where you want to be and how you're going to get there. When you break things down and simplify them, life becomes a bit more easier. And also the second bit of advice that I would give is have a good friend circle, a friend circle that will push you and push you and push you. Don't associate with friends who are not going to, who might drive you away from success. If you want to be rich, then be with people who will push you. If you want to be religious, then be with people who will push you to be religious. I would say friend circles define who you are. You may not realize it, and I myself, I would have never thought that friends could affect me, but believe me, they do. And I would say a key element to my success is having a good friend circle who would drive me every single day. Believing in God and believing in imams, amazing imams who were infallible and who did so much good for the world. I mean, and forget about the religious world. I mean, even on a very secular level, if you look at the work of Imam Ja'far Sadiq in areas of science and maths and Pythagoras and all these things which our own imams developed these concepts, we should look at that as evidence to argue that it's okay to further your career in biology and chemistry and whatever, but know that your imams were the pioneering fathers of those areas. So I would say take pride in learning secular knowledge, as well as obviously religion as well. So yeah. My main contribution, I would say, to the community, to the Shia Muslim community, is in the area of youth development. When I went to university, I was alhamdulillah blessed with the chance to take over a youth body in Leicester, which caters for 11 to 16-year-olds. And my job was to basically cater towards their personal, spiritual, religious, and academic needs. So one of the first things that we did was have an Easter camp, where we got about 30 to 40 children in the mosque, and we got them to stay in the mosque for about 4 days. And we took them, go-karting, and we took them tobogganing and all these things. But we also taught them, we also got lecturers from outside the community and obviously inside the community as well, to give talks on the importance of women in Islam, the importance of akhlaq, the importance of imams in our religion, as well as the importance of learning how to talk properly or learning how to present yourself properly. So I was being involved with that project was probably one of my biggest things that I've done for the community. But that's been supplemented very much with other stuff like having tuition classes. So recently we've launched free tuition classes for children in areas of maths, English and science for those who can't afford tuition. And alhamdulillah, we've had about 20-30 kids who have come on a regular basis. We have around about 10 teachers who come and donate their time. And so I guess those two are the main things that I've tried to give back to the community, I guess. So at the moment I'm looking at the situation of minorities and Shia Muslims in Malaysia. So looking at the fatwa in '96 that was released by the council in Malaysia, which effectively banned Shia Islam. So my job is to basically try and speak to those on the ground in Malaysia. I'm in contact with about 3 or 4 professors who feed me information, and then I put that into a much more broader report, which gets published hopefully very soon. And the idea is to raise awareness of the persecution of Shia Muslims in Malaysia. There are so many examples where 200 to 300 people have been arrested and detained just because of being Shia, just because of commemorating Imam Hussein or commemorating Ashura or whatever. Just by virtue of being Shia, you are being persecuted. And the sad thing is that no one knows about it. So my job is to raise awareness of it through this paper that I'm publishing soon, hopefully. Being Shia, as I mentioned before, is obviously about taking the Imams as your foundation. But also, being Shia also means you care about everyone, and that is regardless of where they live. And I'm very, very proud to be in London, helping a very, very small Shia community in Malaysia, some would say. I'm very proud to be helping those, and I hope that one day they'll be free to practice their faith freely without any fear of persecution. So yeah, I'm very proud. One of the ways that I've tried to motivate my community and the kids in Leicester is to try and do everything in preparation for the arrival of the Mahdi. The arrival of the Mahdi is something which most youths know about, most Shia youths know about. So when we were holding classes on how to become a better Muslim, it was because I wanted to instill the idea that you do it because when the Mahdi comes, you are best prepared. And you'd be surprised by how many youths take that idea and they make it last. I mean, they'll write poems. I remember we had this one competition in Leicester where the kids were asked to paint and to write poems and about the Mahdi. And they would write about their struggles, and how they want to become better Muslims so they can be part of the army of the Imam. And it's amazing what comes out. So I would say, take some of these things that are part of Shia Islam, which are so exciting, and use that as a foundation for motivating children, definitely. I want to be able to say that I've contributed towards humanity, and when I say that, I don't mean that in a big way. I mean, I want to make a contribution towards helping those who are in need. I want to be able to say in 20, 30 years' time that I helped this community. I contribute towards this community's freedom to practice their faith. I want to be able to tell my children, inshallah, one day that, look, through the work that I did and through the work that Shias have done and other people, we've helped someone 3,000-4,000 miles away. I want to give back. So I would say that's my overall goal, I would say. There is so much oppression and evil in the world. And for me to look at the life of Imam Hussein and to understand that even though you're a minority, a very small minority, sometimes you may lose the battle, but you may win the war, and that is very much the case today. If you look at the number of Pakistani Hazaras the Shia Hazara community of Pakistan that are killed every single day, it makes one cry. But you kind of realize that even though they may be dying, their message is still being heard here in London, and Imam Hussein's message is very similar. That message is still causing people to give up so much of their time. I mean, I always look back at the Hussein campaign and I think, wow, like Imam Hussein was responsible for that. Like that's amazing. So I use that as my inspiration, definitely. When I was young, I really wanted to help my family. I think that was my biggest thing. I mean, when I was young, I was very fortunate to have a strong, loving, caring family, and I wanted to pay them back effectively for what they gave me. So when I was young, I used to do ridiculous things like write cards or draw something or write something or whatever. But I think when I was a kid, I think that was my focus. And then I think when I got older, I realized that okay, humanity is humanity. Everyone's a human. So let's try and help other people as well. And yeah, I think religion can be a very powerful tool for success. When you realize just how small you are in the world, and you realize that there is someone or something out there that cares about you and is pushing you to become successful, it's very reassuring. Sometimes you think I'm all alone and there's no hope, but then you dig deep into your heart and you ask yourself, am I really alone? And when you realize that there's a God who loves you and wants you to become the best that you can be, it just provides you with that extra push. Often it's so hard to look at the world as a researcher in my field, and it's so hard to believe that these people are being persecuted, and it's so hard to raise awareness of it sometimes. But then you have to have faith, and that faith drives you every single day, whether it be to speak to a different journalist, or or write up a new campaign, or whatever it is. That belief in God pushes you every single day. So yeah.
What about a little bit? Do you have any?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I look at Imam Jafar Sadiq and I just think that the advancements that he made and his students made. People forget that if it wasn't for his students, stuff like Pythagoras, which we take for granted every single day, right angles, for example, all these things were by Imam Jafar Sadiq's students. So I would say that the role that the Ahlul Bayt play in my life specifically is great. To know that I can take examples from each and every Imam and incorporate that into my daily life, whether it be Imam Hussein's stand against oppression, or Imam Ali's fight against injustice and intolerance and whatnot, and Imam Jafar Sadiq's research areas. I can take different things and incorporate that into my life in all areas. So the role that they play is huge, definitely. My first and foremost piece of advice to any youth out there, and this comes from someone who's seen a lot of injustice in the world, is really appreciate what you have. Don't take it for granted. The fact that you can eat every single day, that you've got a nice bed to sleep on, that you've got shelter. Really appreciate what you have, because there are many kids out there in the world who haven't even got clothes, haven't even got a warm place to stay at night. Focus on what you have than what you don't have. That'll be my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice is, on a more general note, is don't go to school and come back and not have learnt anything at all. Take everything, absorb it, take it all in. Because there are kids out there who can't even travel to school safely. So don't take education for granted. Thirdly, I would say have a passion. If it is to be a footballer, then be a footballer, but be the greatest footballer that you can ever imagine. If you want to be a doctor, then be the greatest doctor you can be. Don't settle for okay. be the best, you know, and that is regardless of what field you want to go into. And lastly, I would say just take every single day as a new day. Don't ever get, you know, set down. I for one had many obstacles to getting to where I am, but that's every single person. Barack Obama had so many obstacles to becoming the president of the US. All the successful people had so many areas where they were set back. But don't get let down. Just keep going, and with the will of God and Ahlul Bayt, you'll be fine.
Okay. Do you want to add, like, saying the main important, you know, advice I would say is, you know, have faith in Allah and Ahlul Bayt, and then they will push you towards.
Yeah.
If you don't say number one, because number one you already said it.
Ah,
so
yes, yeah, sure.
You would say, like, the main important thing, and then cut. Number one is this, number two this. And
okay, yes,
so
yes.
Would you be able to say the main important thing?
Yeah, sure.
So that Allah pushes you.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
Because without the religion or Allah, you wouldn't be a successful person.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't reach to any stage anyway.
Absolutely. I think there's no doubt that, you know, you're nothing without, you know, as God says, you know, be and it will be, you know, without God's will, you're nothing. So you have to be grateful towards God, and you have to really appreciate the fact that you are nothing without Him. And I would say that I myself, I've experienced that in terms of, you know, when you've got nothing going for you, nothing is happening. You know, you've got no job, you've got no career, you've got no money. But then you realize that you've still got one thing, and that's God. God is always there. He's never leaving. He's always there. So I would say the most important thing is to really, really understand that no matter who you are, no matter how bad you are, no matter how worse off you are, have faith in God, because He will give you the success which you deserve in the end. If not now, then in the hereafter.
And what about the thought that, you know, the teaching of Ahlul Bayt?
I would say that, I mean, you know, one can learn a lot from just the event of Kerbala. You can take 1,000 lessons. You can learn patience and virtue and standing up for what's right. And you can learn so much. For example, no matter how small you are and how insignificant you are, you can still win. You know, you may have, you know, 72 people, but you can still win. You know, you can still achieve success, no matter how small you are, no matter how insignificant you are. If you are a community of 10 people, you can be the change which you want to see. So the role of the Ahlul Bayt in success is so important, because they were successful. They are your role models. They achieved success on a grand scale, that it was a success which 1400 years later people still remember. That's success. I've always said to people who want to be successful, look at those who are successful. And by Allah, there is no one as successful as Ahlul Bayt. So learn from them, definitely.